So my wife's poor green PJ had a bad rear axle bearing, machined about 1/8 of an inch out of the driver's side rear axle shaft. It was pretty hideous, and she had a bad front drive shaft constant velocity joint. So her Jeep got to ride the pine, as it were, while the rest of us, that being two friends of mine with side-by-sides, Bill and Brett, and me with my red TJ, we went to a place called Hooter Holler in outside Mountain Grove, Missouri. We had a great time. It's a small family park, about 500 acres, but it's got some really good assets there. They've got a couple of nice motocross tracks, a dirt drag strip, and plenty of trails to trail ride. Check out their Facebook page for events. It looks like they do a lot there. And stay tuned for some pictures and videos from our time out at Hooter Holler.
Hey friends, I just realized while I'm editing this that I really got to show you the picture of this ring gear and this axle shaft. If you've ever taken apart a Dana 35 rear end before, the axle shaft should be smooth, and it should have the roller bearings right around the axle shaft. There's no race in there. So what you're going to see in the picture is about 1/8 of an inch of steel removed from the axle shaft. We towed this Jeep 300 miles, flat towing it, after we saw the gear oil leaking, and I just assumed it was a bad axle seal because there was no other visible sign. So we got crazy lucky to not totally lose an axle. One of those risks, right? You try to take good care of your equipment, and sometimes you get lucky in the end when you do dumb stuff. Hooter Holler is about 500 acres with 30 miles of trails outside of Mountain Grove, south central Missouri. Mountain Grove has your auto parts store, your hotel, your Walmart, etc. Everything you should need to keep rolling. Here's the sign you'll see on the paved road just next to the gravel road. You follow that gravel road back about 2 miles. It's well graded to the sign-in shed office. Once there, you'll pay your $10 and get your trail map. Your trail map is surprisingly accurate. It does not indicate the trail conditions or difficulty. There are signs on the trails that do that. Are they super accurate, and what is their system of rating? I don't know. We were only there for 4 hours. We rushed around to try as many trails as we could, and we aimed for the toughest trails based on what we thought the terrain looked like ahead of us. So our side-by-sides and my TJ, we did a good job on these little rock slab sections of trails. The side-by-sides bottomed down a little bit. Not a big deal. Mostly gentle trails. It looks like they do a lot of events here. So check out their calendar for events. It looks like a great venue for events. It'll be a lot of fun to watch some rock bouncers race up the very short but steep rock climbing, hill climbing sections, the motocross track, the dirt drag strip. All look like they'd be a blast for a big event. So make sure you check out their event page. I really like the motocross track because it's long and low and fast looking to me. Long straightaways, U-turns, and heading back down another long straightaway. So probably not very exciting to a lot of high-flying motocross guys, but as far as speed goes, that looks like it'd be a lot of fun. We had been on the trails in the heat for a little bit and decided to take one quick lap around just to cool off. And a little rough on my Jeep. The side-by-sides had a blast, and then it was back to the trails. So make sure you check with the owners and the rules before using trails like that. You don't want to break any rules, and you don't want to upset anybody or hurt any of their hard work. Later we found this creek bottom trail and headed down this. That's a neat experience too. We were able to wash the day's dirt and grime out of our wheels and head up to some more cool trails. Point of order, Travis. You're driving into water without looking to see what's ahead of you. That is correct, Travis. And that's one of the cardinal rules we don't want to break, is driving into unknown depth water. Here the water is so clear we can see the bottom. We are able to have previous experience of what the bottom's like. We know it's kind of gravel, rock. It is not quicksand mud. It is not a lot of decayed vegetative material. We did get a little concerned, and our friend with the side-by-side said he'd go ahead since he was able to see the ground better from his side-by-side. And watching his wheels go through the water, we realized it wasn't very deep at all. So just make sure, if you can't see the bottom of what you're going through and you don't know what the bottom's made out of, get somebody to go out and wade. Make them walk. It's definitely better to do that than risk hydrolocking your motor and spending the day stopped on a trail. We went up to another trail called Nightwalker, and we walked up this and thought, you know what, this is going to be a high challenge for my TJ with no lockers and 32s. Brett and Bill also wanted to try it with their side-by-sides, so we made a go at this trail. This park strikes me as a park that when it's wet, if it's just rain, these trails are going to be slick. As it was nice and dry. You can see here, steep trail, good little bounce on the front end, made it up. Trying not to have to use that clutch and burn it up backing down hills. I made the corner, went to the second ledge, and popped the front end over it and got hung up on a stump and the ledge at the same time. So there goes my effort to make it up Nightwalker all in one run. Brett and Bill both took their shots at the trail with their side-by-sides, and those little side-by-sides, they do really good on these trails. None of us were able to make it over that last big ledge. The side-by-sides bottomed out. Good try. And we had a great time overall in the park for the limited amount of time we had there. So what do you have to say about this park? Limited facilities on a regular day, probably great for events. The trails we got to experience were not that difficult. I would strongly recommend, if someone was in the area with their JKU or TJ or whatever and a friend or two, and you had time to kill, go spend that day with the family riding around. Definitely a family-friendly trail system, I believe. Except for that rock that bit my brand new bumper. Check that out. Kind of smeared the metal a little bit. We had a good time at Hooter Holler and hit the road back to Hartville, Missouri, where our schoolie campout was. So we had a great time at the park. We had a great time camping out with all of our schoolie friends for 9 days. Check out our schoolie Instagram. It's Big Blue Holler. That's hauling, like hauling stuff, not like yelling stuff. Big Blue Holler. And you can see some pictures and videos of what we're doing in our schoolie when we travel with our Jeeps.